This is video number 10 in the organic lesson series, and it's about alkenes and alkynes. Right, so alkanes, right, which is the first thing we started learning about, involves only single bonds between carbon and carbon. So what alkenes and alkynes are about are double bonds and triple bonds, respectively, between carbons. So all we're going to do is, if we were to say take 1, 2, 3, 4, a 4-carbon chain, this would be butane. But let's say that we put a double bond here, right? Now there's still 4 carbons, right? And all we're going to do is, rather from alkane, we use the ending ane, so it's butane, right? This will be an alkene because it has a double bond, right? And so we're just going to change the ending to ene for alkene. So this would be a butene, right? And of course, same thing over here. If I put a triple bond, right, that's carbon 1, carbon 2, 3, 4. This would be carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, this would just be butine. We're using the ending "ine" because it's an alkyne with a triple bond. Now, these names aren't quite complete yet because I could, of course, move the double bond here, and that would also be butene, right? We need to be able to distinguish between those two different molecules, right? And same thing with the triple bond. I could move the triple bond to a different position in the molecule. So what we do is, again, numbering, right? Except this time, because it's a bond, not an atom that takes up a position, we're going to number the bonds. So this would be bond 1, bond 2, and bond 3. So put them in different colors. So the blue numbers are for the atoms. There are 4 atoms in butene, right? But there are only 3 bonds in butene. Right? And so since this one has it on bond number 1, right, we would just call this 1-butene. Okay? And of course, if I went 1, 2, 3, 4, and I put my double bond there, right, then this would be bond 1, 2, 3. And so this would be 2-butene. And you can do the same thing here. We number bond 1, bond 2, bond 3. Right? And so this would be 1-butene. Okay. And of course, the same rules apply with numbering bonds as numbering the atoms, right? Is that we always use the lowest numbering, right? So of course, there would be no 3-butene. Because 3-butene would be the same as 1-butene, right? Just numbering in the opposite direction. Okay. Also, as we learned in the last video, video 9, about alcohols, right? When we have butene or butine, right? The double bond or triple bond, being the functional group which determines the ending of the name, right, takes priority in the main chain. So that means that the double bond has to be part of the main chain, or the triple bond has to be part of the main chain. So when we have branches, right, we have to make sure, of course, that our double bond, so say we did that, right? We have to make sure that or we can even do this, just to make it interesting, right? We have to make sure our double bond becomes part of the main chain. So if I were able to do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? This, of course, does not include the double bond, so it's a 6-carbon long chain, right? So I can't number it like that because it doesn't include the double bond. So what I have to do is make sure that I'm including the double bond as part of my main chain. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So it's only going to be a 5-carbon long main chain, not a 6-carbon long main chain, right? We're going for the longest chain that includes the double bond. Right? So this will be a pentene, right? And then on the second carbon of the pentene, right, we have a 1,2 carbon long chain, right? So that will be a 2-ethyl. And then because the double bond is on the 1, 2, 3, 4, the first bond of the main chain, right? It's a 2-ethyl 1 pentene, right? So we have to say that the double bond comes on the first bond of pentene. Right? Now, the last thing to consider is what happens if I say move my chain, my side chain, further down over here. So I'm going to put my side chain over here, say. Right? Now, can I say that, of course, I want to give the lowest number to the double bond, so that'll be bond 1, bond 2, bond 3, bond 4, right? So it'll still be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? It'll still be a 1 pentene, right? But now when I want to name my branch, which has 1 carbon on it, right? So this would be, am I going to number my carbon chain 1, 2, so that I can call that a 2-methyl 1 pentene? 3, 4, 5, right? Or am I going to number it in the opposite direction and call it 1, 2, 3, 4 methyl 1 pentene, right? Well, there could be some confusion here because if I called it a 2-methyl 1 pentene, right? Could that mean that, of course, that the methyl group goes there on the second carbon, counting from the same side as the double bond, right? Or does it mean that it's on the second carbon from the opposite side of the chain? Well, as it turns out, these would actually be 2 different molecules, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is, if I number it this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's got a methyl group on the second carbon, right? Whereas this one has a methyl group on a completely different carbon, right? So we couldn't call these both 2-methyl 1 pentene, right? We have to give them different names. So the rule with numbering is that the atoms in the main chain have to be numbered in the same direction as the bonds. So if my lowest bond number is over here, my lowest atom number also has to be on the same end. I have to number them both in the same direction, right? That way that this becomes 2-methyl and this becomes 4-methyl 1 pentene. And of course, how do we decide whether we give the lowest number to the branch or the lowest number to the double bond? Well, same thing is that the main chain has to include the double bond, right? We always figure out what the name of the main chain is going to be first, then we name the branches. So ignoring where the branch is on the molecule, right, we give the lowest number to the double bond first. So we call this 1, bond 1, bond 2, bond 3, bond 4, and the main chain becomes a 1 pentene. And then we figure out where the branches are afterwards. So now that we've numbered the bonds this way, we number the atoms the same way. And this becomes a 4-methyl 1 pentene. Right? And of course we can substitute a triple bond in any of these cases and it would just become ine with a Y-N-E instead of ene for a double bond. So the same rules apply for triple and double bonds. Right? The only thing that is left to talk about is what if we have more than one double bond, right? And we already actually know how to do this because we talked about what if we have more than one branch of the same type, right? So if we have 2 methyl branches, we don't call it a methyl-methyl butane, right? We call it a dimethyl butane. Well, if we have 2 functional groups, like 2 double bonds or 2 triple bonds, or even 2 alcohols, which I didn't mention in the last video, right? Then we can use the same set of prefixes to say that there are 2, 3, or 4 of something. We use di, tri, tetra, etc. So say I have a double bond there, and then I have another double bond there, right? I would, of course, then, doesn't matter if I name from a number from this way or this way, because either way there's a double bond on the first bond, 2, 3, right? So we have double bonds on the first and third bonds. And now I have to number my carbons in the same direction, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 carbons, right? So this would, of course, be a bute, because there's 4 carbons, right? And now it's not just an ene, but it's a butadiene doesn't flow very well, so we keep the A in so butadiene, like that, just so that butadiene flows better than butadiene, right? The TD doesn't blend well. So we have a butadiene, right? Where the di indicates that there are 2 double bonds, and then we still have to say where are the 2 double bonds in the molecule. Well, it's a 1, 3 butadiene because our double bonds are on bond 1 and bond 3 of the molecule, right? And we can do the same thing with alcohols. We could have a diol, right? We could do the same thing with alkynes. We could have a diene, right? Or even a triene, or a triene, or a triol, right? And we're going to see as we continue going on with this, with different functional groups, the same rules are going to apply, right? We're just learning different suffixes for the different functional groups.